Have you outgrown shallow friendships and you're tired of feeling guilty for wanting more? Hello, everybody. This is Sly. Welcome to day two of my YouTube journey of the HSP Sanctuary, which is the Highly Sensitive Person Sanctuary, which is a component of my Substack account. So today I wanted us to talk about what changes when you stop abandoning yourself and you stop shrinking in your friendships. And that is for anybody who's a deep feeler. I want you to know that you're safe here. And I wanted to share with you guys that I posted something on Substack that unexpectedly went viral a week ago. And the responses were like, it sounded like 1,000 people just telling me too, saying me too. So I think it'll be best that I read it to you. And I think that it'll name what you've been carrying. So let me go ahead and read this to you guys. And it went something like this. In my 40s, I noticed a pattern. The friends who can handle my depth are the ones who have done their own trauma work. Everyone else, they weren't surface level. So I spent decades trying to shrink for people who couldn't hold my depth, and I'm done. HSPs don't need more friends, we need deeper ones. Have you outgrown shallow friendships? So that was the note that I shared on Substack a week ago. And if your chest did that little thing where you feel tight, just me reading that to you, um, I see you. I see you because what I want to do is I want to connect this, what we're talking about today, to my episode one from yesterday, which I talked about how I stopped abandoning myself. Because I think that once you stop abandoning yourself, you stop agreeing to relationships where you have to disappear to be kept, and friendships are included. So today I'm answering 5 questions that kept coming up in the comments because my Substack family, they were not playing and they were not being dramatic. They were being very, very honest. And I really love that. I love my community on Substack. And that's why I wanted to have an accompanying component of the video version of my notes and posts on Substack and bring it here to YouTube. So let's dive in. Let's go with question one. The first question that came up was, why does it feel lonelier to stay in certain friendships than to be alone? And for me, I think I would say to answer that question is because loneliness isn't about being by yourself. Loneliness is being in somebody's company, excuse me, and still feeling unseen. So it's when you leave a conversation and you're thinking, well, I was there, but I really wasn't there, right? I'm sure some of you have probably felt that way when you're in a conversation with someone, and that's not a good feeling to have. So I think that's I would let's say let me give you guys an example, right? So this is like I would say like something that I would write, I wrote in my diary, so I'll share this. Um, let's say you meet up with a friend or you're talking to a friend and you're like, well, I've been, you share, like, I've been having a hard week. And they go, oh, anyway. And then they change the topic, right? And they just say, oh, hey, did you see what happened on Instagram? And you laugh, which is what I would do too. I laugh and I keep going. But inside, I quietly decided, I'm like, you know what? Okay, that's a mental note. Your nervous system makes a mental note and say, you know what? Yeah, that part of me is not going to, I'm not going to share that part of me again. Um, I won't bring that to this person because they didn't even receive it. They didn't even hear me. You feel unseen. So that's why it feels lonely. That's how, for me at least, that's how it feels lonely. Your body's present, but you know that your truth is not allowed to be. So that's how I would answer that question. And that brings us to question number two. Let's see what came up in question number two. Question number two was, when did I realize I wasn't too much? I was just in the wrong rooms. That's a very good one. Very good one. So I would say that is the moment where you notice the difference between people who meet you where you're at and people who manage you. So an example is, there's some friends who can hold your depth and not try to fix you, right? And they don't try to, okay, so they don't fix you, they don't rush you, they don't make you don't have to they don't shrink you, you don't feel like you have to shrink. Others only like the version of you that's easy, upbeat, and when you have low needs and you're low maintenance, those are the friends those are the shallow friends. But the ones that are deep, that's they can hold your depth with no issue at all. Listen, and it's not about calling anyone a villain. It's just about capacity, because some people just don't have the capacity to just hold your depth. It's a lot, because they haven't done their own trauma work. So they don't know, and you can't fault them, because they just don't know. And they don't have that emotional range for holding your or maintaining your friendship. And if you keep trying to make them your safe place, you'll just start blaming yourself, and because you have needs, and those needs are not being met, and you just feel like you're too much, and you're just not built for shallow water. You're just built for depth. That leads me to question three. Am I outgrowing people, or am I finally meeting myself? Hmm. I think that one, even for me, is that's a good one, because I feel that I'm not out. Yeah, I am not outgrowing. I think, how would I say it? I'm finding myself, or coming home to myself, is how I would liken that. Um, when you're a healed person, your nervous system gets picky, and it gets picky in a good way, not in a bad way. You stop calling, what would I say? You stop saying calling crumbs connections. Um, you because and when you have some friends who are inconsistent, deep down that they're inconsistent, but you 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 give them an excuse by saying, oh, they're just busy, and but you're the one who always understands. Well, you're very understanding, but nobody understands you back, if that makes sense. So there is grief, because when you stop abandoning yourself, you may lose access to people who benefited from you staying small, or shrinking yourself, right? That doesn't mean that you're wrong. It just means the old version of you is, too much work to keep the peace. This is just too much work. Then question four, what are you supposed to do then? Am I just choosing the wrong and or damaged people, or is there something I should be doing differently? Ooh. You know, this is a good one, and it's a big one, and I'm going to choose to answer it very carefully and gently, because I think sometimes it's both. It's both. Yeah, it's not something that you should really be doing differently. It's just, you're just, you are choosing the wrong people and damaged people, right? So I think we sometimes end up being around friends who how do I say this? They don't have the skills for going deep with the friendship, right? And especially for us highly sensitive people, HSPs, our childhood trained us to feel at home in emotional inconsistency, right? We bond through struggle. We can confuse intensity for intimacy. And especially for me, I end up overfunctioning. I've been overfunctioning in some of my friendships, and I end up just calling it love, but it's really not love. It's just there's just no depth. There's no depth, and we seem to be the empaths, and we feel for the people who are, surface level. We just make excuses for them. I think that's what at least I know for me, I've made excuses for it, right? So, for instance, I was just journaling about this the other day because I was just thinking, through, leading up to the, new year. And I thought to myself, I seem to be the friend who's always checking in, remembers everything. I show up. I send, very long voice notes. And if somebody is going through something, that I'm there, I'll send flowers, I'll send dinner, or uh, I'll think about, if it's their birthday, I remember it. Um, and so after a while, I I started feeling very drained. And when you name what it is that you're feeling or experiencing in the friendship, um, you say, I feel like you haven't been showing up as much as you should, and I think we should have a conversation, especially if it's a friendship that has a history. And when you need the support, they vanish. And I would make excuses for them, and I would just say, I think I should be ending this friendship, but then I'm still holding on to it. But when I bring it up to the friend and their response, surprisingly and very disappointingly, they say, I'm not very good at this. And you know what I would do, just being the empath and the HSP that I am, I end up comforting them for telling me that they're not good at being there for me. And And I'm just, when I was journaling this in my diary, and I said to myself, I have to start doing better. I really have to really put myself first and do better. And for the question where what do you do differently? What I've been doing or have decided to do is choose based on, how would I say this? How would I say this? To choose differently would be to choose based on evidence and not potential of the friendship, right? Evidence looks like they can repair, they're curious, and they're not defensive, right? They don't punish me for my honesty. They show up consistently, and I don't feel like I have to earn my place, with them in the friendship, right? Or in their life. So that's what I would do differently by doing those things. Which leads me to our last question. What does a deep friendship actually require, and why don't most people want it? Mm. I like this one because deep friendships require honesty without punishment, right? And a huge, huge one is, oh, I want to say, accountability without shame, right? Right. Yeah, I think accountability without shame. That's the second one. And the third one, I would say there's repair, mutual effort. There's a fourth one, and the biggest one for me is presence. Not everybody is able to be present when you need them to be, and the presence has to be there consistently, not just sporadically, right? And I think it also requires, hmm, let me think through this one, requires someone who can sit with you in discomfort and not be dismissive, right? Yes. And not attack. Yeah. I think yeah. And also, I think not making me the problem for having those feelings, right? And the truth is, a lot of people don't want that. A lot of people don't want that. And because depth asks you to look at yourself, it does, it really does. But surface level is easier because it's just surface. You don't need to go deep, and there's so many feelings and emotions that come up, and not everybody is willing to do that. And that's why it goes back to, like, if you've done your trauma work, it's easier to do, to have a deep friendship. And another thing is when you share with your friend and you tell them that, oh, I'm done shrinking in the relationship or in the friendship, that you're not being harsh. You're just being kind, actually, by sharing that. You're choosing, your friendships that don't require you or I will choose friendships that don't require us to self-erase, because that's not a way to be in a friendship, right? So that's that's it for those 5 questions that came up on that Substack friendship note that went viral. And I was so grateful for all the comments. Like, everybody was just so supportive, and I felt not so alone. I felt like, oh, I'm not the only one that's going through this. Like, so many people share the same sentiment. And what else did I want to say? I wanted to, before I go, to give you guys a simple tool that you can use this week. That is, what I've started doing is check, doing like a check-in with myself, and how do I feel after I speak to either a friend, family, or coworker, or whoever it is? Like, do I feel, how do I feel? I say, do I feel tight after I speak to the person, or do I feel expanded? Or do I feel fulfilled, or do I feel drained? So what I've been doing is trying to determine those two. And for the expansion part of it is, how do I feel afterwards? It feels, you feel calm, you feel seen, you feel lighter, and you feel more of yourself. And you feel fulfilled, and you're like, oh, that was a very good conversation. That was very, like, your nervous system just exhales, right? But then the other one is usually not the one that I don't like that one. I'll share it. I feel tightened, right? That's the second one. How you feel after you leave the conversation with a person or their company. Do you feel do you feel anxious? Do I feel drained? And the biggest one for me, I don't know if you guys do this, is I find myself replaying the conversation. and I'm thinking, oh, this is what I should have said. I should have said that. Oh, this is what they said. And it's just, I'm in a loop in my head about the conversation. And it also it leaves me feeling small, right? I feel like I wasn't heard, I wasn't seen in the conversation. So, yeah, so that brings me to the end of answering those 5 questions. And as usual, I'm starting to leave you guys with 2 questions. I want this to be a practice that we do together. And that is where I have 2 questions that I'm going to leave you guys with today. Where am I still shrinking to stay connected? Number 2, what could change if I chose friendships that meet me without me performing, right? And yeah, if you want to comment, keep it simple, keep it safe. You don't need to call anybody out. Just a simple comment will with answering the question would be great. And also, if you haven't watched episode 1, how I stopped abandoning myself, go watch it because after you watch this, because it's actually the foundation for why we shrink in the first place. So that's why I wanted to tie this into the first episode I did yesterday. So I'll drop the link down below so that you guys can go watch it. And yeah, that is the foundation of why we shrink in the first place. So I'm really grateful that you're here, my deep feelers, my highly sensitive people. You're welcome. This is a safe space, a safe, cozy space for us. And if you have any questions that you would like me to answer or comments, please feel free to drop them below. And I will see you next time. Thank you.